name is Mpia Kedlamini. I've just been hired as an intern at the Free Market Foundation. I've been here for about 3 months now. There have been many happy and great moments where I've discovered something or an idea just clicked when I talk to the people I work with because of the research we do here and just the environment that's conducive to doing that. But what I would say is my best moment at the Free Market Foundation was when we were hosting the AWC conference, that is the Expropriation Without Compensation conference. And I saw two people from Tumahole in the Free State who had received title deeds through the Kalam project. One of the ladies, Maria, I forget her surname, but she spoke on the joy that she had gotten on receiving the title deed, and just mentioned that because she had gotten a title deed through the foundation, she could now secure her property against some corrupt relatives who might want to take it away from her. That's really hit a chord with me, and I will never forget that moment. And it just hits home to me how consequential the work we do here is.
Hi, I'm Chris Hotting, a researcher at the Free Market Foundation. What I believe makes the FMF stand out amongst think tanks in South Africa is the fact that we approach liberty and individual rights from a multi-pronged approach. We focus on many areas such as property rights, unemployment, opening the environment for people to try and find jobs, etc. I think that the FMF is very good at seeing at the different ways in which government infringes upon individual rights, and we try and defend these rights as best as possible. We write, we do interviews, we do research, we try and influence Parliament, and I think that's of serious value to the people of South Africa.
Section 1C of the Constitution provides that South Africa is founded upon the supremacy of the rule of law and the Constitution. And the implications of this section are not widely known, and that is why the Free Market Foundation established a rule of law project. And what this Board of Advisors and the working committee of this project are dedicated to is to give substance to this provision in our Constitution, this unknown and unappreciated provision in our Constitution. And the angle that we are going for is to ensure that the true meaning of the rule of law, basically that society must be governed by objective legal principles that have developed over centuries, should rule society rather than the objective or the subjective and sometimes whimsical whims and passions of officials who are appointed at the lowest levels of government.
I take great value in working for the FMF because I believe the FMF advocates for freedom to run a society. Freedom is the only moral way for a society to be based upon. Philosophically speaking, all people deserve to be free. People deserve to be free from each other and from the government. And I believe that working for the FMF is the best way for me to use my talent to advocate for freedom for all South Africans.
One of the things I really love about working at the Free Market Foundation is just the exposure of so much of the history that has helped shape South Africa and the people who have been actors in that history. I mean, talking to any one of our 4 directors, you will realize just the personal role that they've played in shaping South Africa, in fighting against apartheid, in helping us have a constitution that protects individual liberties. And so that's one of my joys when I go to work every morning, talking to people like Mr. Eustace Davy, Mr. Leon Law, talking to Mr. Tembo Noluchung when he's in Johannesburg. So that's part of what I love about working at the Free Market Foundation.
In 2013, I first was exposed to the ideas of liberty and the fundamental truth that all individuals, regardless of their race, their background, their nationality, deserve to be free. And this was coming from a background of what we may call collectivism and perhaps social democracy, whereby the freedom of the individual could be limited in the so-called interests of the community. And around that time, I was at university, of course, and I found that not a lot of people were around that believed the same things that I did. But then about a year later, I discovered the Free Market Foundation when I attended one of their talks, and I was blown away by the fact that here are fellow people who believe in the same value that individuals deserve to be free. And I discovered that the Free Market Foundation had believed in this for about 40 years by that time and has consistently fought for that same value. And right at that moment, I knew that it would be a dream of mine to work here eventually. And yes, since I've started working here, every day we've been dedicated to fighting that same fight, freedom, economic freedom, personal freedom, social freedom. for everyone in South Africa.
The first time I heard about the Free Market Foundation, I had been looking for libertarians in South Africa for a while then, and then I suddenly found something that had been written by Phumlani Majosi, and then shortly after that I found out about Herman Mashaba and the book he had written, Capitalist Crusader. And so I was blown away just finding out about fellow libertarians and the things they believed in, the fact that they had the Kaalam project, which has done so much and provided more than 3,000 people with title deeds, poor people. So I was blown away, and I was happy to find out about the foundation.
Apartheid was characterized by the denial of property rights to the majority of South Africans, and this was mostly black South Africans, while white South Africans that have sometimes very secure property in the so-called white areas of the country. And knowing that the white population would be dependent on so-called black labor from the homeland areas, the government of the day did allow black people to come into the cities as so-called migratory workers. And then they were put into periphery townships that we know today as townships, where they mostly were allowed to build their own homes, but the fact is they never received ownership of the property that they lived on. These plots were essentially leased to these people by the local municipality. And that persists to this day, where places like Soweto, Tumahole on the outskirts of Parys, perhaps Khayelitsha and Mitchell's Plain, a lot of those people live as tenants on municipal land. And in 1991, the government passed the Upgrading of Land Tenure Rights Act, which essentially said that all these leasehold tenure systems throughout South Africa, estimated to about 5 million houses and plots, would be upgraded to full freehold ownership. And that is the background of the Free Market Foundation's Kaalam project, which tries to make sure that this process whereby tenants become owners on state land is expedited.
What we do know from economists such as Hernando de Soto is that untitled land represents dead capital, because the people who should have rightful ownership of that land or any property really don't have any means to convert that ownership into, don't have any means to prove that ownership. They can't go to the bank and secure a loan against its ownership. They can't improve the property because they don't have security of tenure. Someone like some government bureaucrat can kick them out at any time. And so this is why the Kaalam project is so important, because it's giving back security of tenure, not only restoring a constitutional natural right, but it's also restoring an economic right, because now people can use this title deed, which is something that is tradable, that can be secured against a bond, or can be secured against any economic activity to develop the place, to allow someone to escape poverty, which is something that we sorely need in South Africa.
Expropriation against compensation harkens back to the days of apartheid, when black South Africans were denied their property rights, their rightful property rights. The Kaalam Land Reform Project is a tangible attempt to try and restore those rights which they should have under constitutional democracy. For only 2,250 Rand as a donation to the FMF, you can sponsor a title deed for a family in a town in South Africa where our project operates. Your donation is a tangible, real-world effect on the denial of property rights and a real attempt to fight against EWC.
From now until the 31st of January 2019, the Free Market Foundation has embarked on its 1 million Rand challenge, which we have every end of the year until the beginning of the new year, whereby any donation that is made to the Free Market Foundation will be topped up by 50% by an anonymous benefactor. So if you donate to the Free Market Foundation between now and 31 January of 2019, whatever you donate will be amplified with 50%, and that will go a long way to making sure that the work we do is effective, has a wide reach, and eventually achieves some kind of liberty for all South Africans.
You should donate to the Free Market Foundation, because we will fight tooth and nail to defeat expropriation without compensation.
We will fight against labor regulations that keep poor people unemployed.
We will fight against arbitrary and capricious government conduct and try to ensure that the rule of law as a founding value of the Constitution is adhered to.
We will fight against the National Health Insurance Plan to ensure that all South Africans have control over their own healthcare.
We will expand our Kailam projects to encompass more previously disadvantaged South Africans.
We will continue to promote and foster an open society,
The rule of law, personal liberty,
and economic and press freedom.